Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm with you tonight, Daniel. We're going to be talking about character creation and backstories. This is my daughter. It's her birthday. You had a particular character you wanted to build tonight, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I think it'd be interesting to try and try to get close.
Okay, we can certainly do that. Let's see. Do you want to try to give us... What do I want to do here? Whiteboard. You'd think I might have thought about this beforehand, but I didn't. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So we were talking about Warlock and doing it the way he does it. What are the goals for this build for you? Firepower?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're a good fighter and they have magic. Generally, this character's just pretty strong.
Okay. Fighter plus magic. You mentioned about a dragon,
Yeah.
or having a connection to dragons.
Yes.
So shall we put that down?
Yeah.
Okay. Dragons. All right. Well, normally in Warlock's videos he does the point buy or standard array. Shall we do that? For this character?
I mean, even if you don't do it that way and building the character outside of theoretically, it gives you an idea of what stat should be the highest anyway.
It's true. That is a way to do it. Look at what powers you want. Look at the classes those powers are in, and then work from there for the stats. We can do that. Okay. So, fighter and magic. That means either a multi-class or a half-caster or a third-caster, like Eldritch Knight. Or my Warden. What do you think works best in your mind? Do you want to tell us a little bit about the character? Other than the bullet points that we've gone over here for our goals?
Well, like I said, they're a pretty good fighter, and generally not ranged, so good health or AC would be important.
Okay.
And in my original backstory, they found the magic on their own, so sort of be sorcerer, right? Ish. I don't know enough about building characters on my own.
Sorcerer, if it's sort of awakened in them, or if they were born with it, or they came across it. Like Draconic Sorcerers, one of the ways that they say in the book that you can do it is you came into contact with a dragon. like you've been in proximity to a dragon is enough to do it. So, yes. Or we can go Warlock, or dip some Warlock for abilities. To have that dug up power theme. Because Warlock also had, general. You make a deal. There's always a deal involved. And usually it's a result of digging into things that perhaps you shouldn't be. At least that's the trope for the Great Old One Warlock. So yeah. Anything else?
Well, they're pretty good with people, but their temper's not the best.
Okay. Well, if we're gonna do Sorcerer, Charisma, that's Charisma Caster. So that tracks. Being good with people, but having a temper. Yeah, we can do that.
They're a little bit explosive.
All right, so yeah, I think Dragons, Fighter, and Fire does say to me Dragon-Blooded Sorcerer. So you get your spell casting and the draconic and the type of dragon. Fire gives us a choice of brass, gold, or red. And you were talking about how they have a red cape.
Yeah.
So is red going to be a predominant?
Probably.
Okay, so we'll go red. So that gives you the draconic resilience. So that's +1 hit point per level. And your AC is 13 plus Dex, which is the same as Mage Armor. So you just always have the equivalent of Mage Armor. Which says to me that Dex might be our secondary highest.
Yeah. Because they probably rely a bit on how fast they are over strength.
Yep. Let's see. We want them to get the wings, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 14 level commitment into Sorcerer.
Good morning!
Morning!
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
This has been a long time since I haven't turned my phone on silent. Sorry about that, everybody. And I think that was just a Twitch notification that I can work the dashboard from my phone. So, that's going to give us Font of Magic, Meta Magic. 1, 2, 3 ASIs. And so we'll have 3 meta magic choices. Now, we talked about also. So, do you think this character is more a fighter, or do you want to potentially dip into Warlock? And for the fighter type, to lean into that, Hexblade is the best one, the best pact to do, because you can use your charisma to attack. Warlock and Sorcerer also pair well, because you can dump your pact magic slots to get sorcery points to then power sorcery abilities. The dreaded coffee lock, as it's called, because you don't take long rests. You just use your Warlock pact magic slots to get sorcery points, to store up the sorcery points, so that when you need them, you can either use them to power meta magic or buy new spell slots. In theory, it's diminishing returns, especially when you start factoring in the levels of exhaustion you start suffering when you don't take a long rest. Although there are people who try to say that I think it's Xanathar's. There's an invocation in Xanathar's that says that you don't have to sleep anymore. What's it called? Aspect of the moon, there it is. Looked at it twice. Yeah, you can just do light activity for 8 hours. Now, the thing is, this breaks the coffee lock build. Like a lot of people say to get that invocation so that you never have to take a long rest. But that invocation says that 8 hours of light activity counts as a long rest. So even if you're not doing anything and you're taking 8 short rests or trying to work that into past your DM, nope, sorry, it counts as a long rest for you now. But Hexblade is kind of nice because you get Hexblade's Curse, which you do extra damage to that person, and it increases your threat range. So you crit on a 19 or 20. Let's see. And if the cursed target dies, you regain hit points. You gain proficiency with medium armor and shields and martial weapons. And you can bond a weapon. Similar to Pact of the Blade. And Pact of the Blade goes well with Hexblade. But yeah. And you can make it disappear and summon it to you when you do that. It's the one thing that Travis always got wrong in Campaign 2 with Ford, and Matt never called him out on it. Because he would just do it like he was drawing a weapon, and the feature says Or no, Pact of the Blade. It's the Pact of the Blade feature that allows you to make it vanish. But yeah, it says it's an action to summon it. Just like Eldritch Knight has a similar ability. It means you can never be truly disarmed, but it takes you that round to ready yourself, to bring it to bear. Kind of like putting a shield on. Thus far in Campaign 3, we haven't had an instance where Orem has been without his shield when they start something. Or there hasn't been a... It's very easy to just assume Orem has his shield on.
It'd be kind of uncomfortable to sleep with a shield on.
Yeah, and thus far they haven't been ambushed, so that's good. So, if you want to do the Hexblade thing, does that sound like something you want to do? Hexblade also, like, often, a lot of people in their narrative, you could argue that King Arthur is a Hexblade, or has some Hexblade in his build that you would do, because he gets Excalibur. He's given Excalibur by the Lady in the Lake. So, and Gwaine and the Green Knight, similar kind of thing. The Green Knight could be a Hexblade. So yeah. I don't know if going all the way to 6th level in Warlock for a Hexblade interests you. But that 6th level, they get, when they kill a target, they get to raise a Spectre. And it serves them for a time. I don't know if that ability factors into your character
It's not
concept.
really part of the character.
So we can exit out of Hexblade then before 6th level. These are all the charts. I do eventually want to go over some charts that I did for Xanathars with you guys. Do that in a minute. I think we've got Hexblade. Let's see, I think if you're going to go Warlock and Hexblade, you want to at least go to, you get your Pact. So that's at least 3rd level. 4th level, 4th level gets us another ASI. But if we just do 3 levels, you'll have another meta magic you can take. If we're building this out to 20th level. So at 2nd level you get invocations, and you get 2, I think. Yep, 2. And then 3rd level you get your Pact boon. And then so I guess it's a question of, do you want another chance at a feat, or another meta magic option, do you think? Well, I think well, let's do 4 levels. and then we can do 16 levels. Or we can dip Fighter for that second wind and action surge.
Me? Yeah.
And also the ability, well, Hexblade and Fighter would give you the same armor and weapon proficiencies, so they sort of double up there. So we got an ASI pact. Two invocations. Now, I don't know if you mentioned that they change into a dragon, and I told you it's easier and more in the rules to make them dragonborn with the invocation Mask of Many Faces to make themselves appear human all the time.
Yeah.
Or use Mask of Many, or be human and use Mask of Many Faces to change themselves into a dragonborn, because you can do that too. No mechanical change, but yeah. Oh, I did want to look at fizz bands. There's a character sheet if you want. Or,
a few.
yes, it is. It's like 4. Draconic Transformation. I was right. It is in this book. Seventh level, which you'll be able to cast. It's a bonus action. You gain blind sight to a range of 30 feet. You get a breath weapon, and you get wings with a flying speed of 60 feet, which are better than the dragon wings that you get for being a sorcerer, because those are only your walking speed.
Yeah, they're a lot bigger than the actual dragon.
Yeah. That's accurate, yeah. For sure. Alright. So yeah, that's definitely going to be on your list. So if we do the standard array from the player's handbook, which I don't have memorized because I always have people roll, so.
It's kind of fun that way. Though, you're quite literally rolling the dice that you're gonna either get, like, some great, like, some really great abilities or some really terrible ones.
This is true.
There are some times where it's like, I'm just, you get, like, a couple negatives.
Right.
Or, like one of my friends, the first time that he ever made a character sheet. Probably the only time, given that was for a birthday party. He rolled like, I think it was at least 2 18s.
Mm. All right. So with a standard array, we get 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. Make Charisma top.
Yeah.
Dex next for the AC. Fighter's multi-class is, I think, Dex or Strength of 13. Let's double check that. Because that's the wild card here in terms of multi-classing. Strength or Dex. Yep. So already we meet the multi-class requirements for the classes we're looking at. So I guess it's a matter of, do you want to be slightly more tough? Intelligent or wise? Although you said they have a temper.
Yeah.
Do you think that is better represented with a lower wisdom or intelligence?
Wisdom.
I think so too. I concur. So we can dump wisdom. What do you think they're average at? Because basically that's wherever the 10 goes, that's going to be average, and the other two are both +1s, so it's a matter of degrees. You said strength is not very important in this concept?
Yeah.
So we can make strength 10, which gives us
a D&D character.
A fighter type, I think you want con at 13.
Yeah.
Which gives us an intelligence of 12. And with Tasha's, you can do your +1, +2 wherever you want, and then your +1. So we can do +2 charisma for the initial. And I think put the +1 to Constitution, because that'll give you a 14.
Yeah.
All right. So your first ASI, I think, are there any feats, do you think? Defensive Duelist might be good, where you add your proficiency bonus to your AC against a single attack as a reaction. Although Shield is better than that. So, but Defensive Duelist doesn't require a spell slot. Inspiring Leader might be a good one if you're going for charisma. Actor. That's nice because it's a half feat, so that will bump your charisma. Warcaster we're gonna want. And probably Elemental Adept. So Elemental Adept and Warcaster, I think, is a must for this build. So that's 2 of your 4 ASIs. So we got 2 that we can invest in stats. So do +2 for the first to Charisma. Gets us to a 19. And then +1 Charisma to cap it out at 20. And then we can, I don't know, Dex maybe? Get it to 15. Not that it matters. I mean, Dex or Con. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Let's see. And then Warcaster. And Elemental Adept. For fire. We get 3 meta magics. One of them I think that you might want. I don't know. I can't remember what book it's in. I think it might be Xanathar's. It is not. It might be Tasha's then. But the Transmute Spell that allows you to change the damage type. So you can learn Cone of Cold. Use the meta magic and make it fire. To make it like a dragon breath. Twin Spell if you want to be able to attack 2 creatures with the same casting. And Quicken, since you want to do melee combat.
Yeah. Okay. So we have action surge. Your fighting style from fighter, I think, because you're packed, the Eldritch, the Hexblade can't be a heavy weapon. Dueling might be good to give you +2 bonus damage, wielding a weapon in one hand. Yeah.
So you could do sword and board.
Who was having one sword?
Yeah. So dueling style. Hexblade expanded list for spells. Shield, Wrathful Smite, Blur, Branding Smite. And you won't get 3rd level spells, so those don't matter. And I think those are also well, Wrathful Smite and Branding Smite are not sorcerer spells. So, 14 levels of sorcerer. Six cantrips. And you know 13 spells. And then for Warlock, 2 cantrips. And 4 spells. And our invocations right now are Mask of Many Faces, and Fiendish Vigor. You can cast False Life on yourself at will. And that gives you 4 temporary hit points without expending a spell slot. It's another good one. For, like, if you're going to be in melee. Because in theory, on a turn, if you're getting beat up, say, you need or you get a breather turn. You use that to cast False Life on yourself, and then you can second wind as well to heal that D10 plus your fighter level for a total hit point swing of up to 16 that round. I think False Life is concentration. Oh, an hour. And I'm wrong. Bolster yourself with False Life. Gain 1d4 plus 4 temporary hit points every time you cast it. Which also, you could quicken that if you wanted to a bonus action casting without using a spell slot to give yourself the temporary hit points almost every turn until you run out of sorcery points to quicken the spell. So you could give yourself those temporary hit points and attack every turn for 14 turns. And then you could dump your Pact Magic spell slots for 4 sorcery points to do it another 4 turns as a bonus action. Or again, you get that breather cast it as an action, bonus action, second wind. And having that actually takes the sting out of that d6 hit die from being a sorcerer and makes you a little bit more survivable.
Yay! Survivability is great.
I don't know if... I don't know. It might not be worth it, maybe? I don't know. Trying to think if there's anything. Well, and actually, so you were talking about like they have anger issues. If you take that fiendish vigor, you can basically flavor that as them tapping into their rage. Not exactly like a barbarian, it's certainly not as effective, but
It's still something.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite Eldritch invocations are the ones that let you cast spells for nothing. From just my personal opinion. All right. Yeah, this mechanically is, so we have 2 ASIs devoted to ability score, actual increases, and then we get Forecaster and Elemental Adept. Oh no, I already wrote those down. I already wrote them down. We're good. Okay. Yeah, and I think you probably don't need to bother with Eldritch Blast. Well, actually, with Transmute Spell, if you wanted to, and you could do it to take advantage of your Elemental Adept feat. Transmute Eldritch Blast to fire damage. So maybe we do take Eldritch Blast. But I think your primary attack's cantrip would be Firebolt. And if you want, how much control over fire do you want her to have? Because this is a she, right?
Yeah.
So we have, I guess we should make sure that that's actually on the Sorcerer list. Control flames. Okay. So control flames. Firebolt.
I don't know if she really controls fire.
No?
If she does, it's probably more spreading it.
Well, that is one of the things you can do with control flames. Is spread it. I think create bonfire approximates that explosion idea.
Yeah.
Gosh, we're 3/4 of the way through the hour, and I still haven't gone over my tables.
Shocking grasp with elemental adept could be kind of something like that, right?
You could, with
Worth
the
it.
Transmute Spell.
Yeah.
It would give you a melee control spell. That's not a bad idea, yeah. Oh, Green Flame Blade. Requires an attack action. And when you first get it, hit that person takes fire damage. At higher levels, you hit that person, they take fire damage, and so does that person. So, for the fire combat person, it's a good spell. And if you wanted, because we're talking explosions, and you don't think Control Flames works thematically, Booming Blade transmuted to fire instead of thunder. So you basically hit them, wreathe them in fire, and if they move, they take damage. Okay. And then Eldritch Blast. Because the good thing about Eldritch Blast, and transmuted or not, it scales and gives you multiple attacks. Because that's one thing that you're missing right now in this, is consistent multi-attacks every turn. You're still only stuck with one, unless you cast Haste. Which, with Twin Spell, you can cast Haste on yourself and somebody else. So, yeah. So Eldritch Blast is the only way that you're going to get multiple attacks off in a turn without investing additional resources. So it's not a bad thing to have. And I don't know if anything... particularly from the Warlock. Yeah. Blade Ward gives you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing weapons.
Yeah. What does the Wrathful Smite do?
Wrathful Smite, it's a d6 damage, and they have to make a saving throw or be afraid of you. And Burning or Searing Smite is fire damage. So that one, I think, would make it for your Warlock spells. Yeah. What do you think of them?
Yeah.
Have we approximated the abilities of this character in your head?
I think so.
I mean, it's a 20th level character, but I mean,
yeah.
So they can do a lot, but... Alright, cool.
I mean, it. Characters in my head can get to about god levels, so...
Which is a 20th level character. Because at 20th level, you're basically fighting gods, so... yeah. So, to the title of the stream, I guess now. Hello, welcome. So I redid some of the Xanathar tables. specifically to fit Araku better, which is the campaign setting we play in at the moment. Because I didn't feel the ones in Xanathar's fit really well. Although I did realize after I wrote all this that I took out the Boons life event, the Boon life event. So basically it's all tragedy. It's not all tragedy, but it's largely tragedy.
Hey, a lot of interesting characters are made that way.
Yeah, well, and I mean there's a reason it's a trope, for a reason. But yeah, so I might have to redo the life events one, but I don't really like the Boon table very much. I don't think it speaks to story very well. So I don't know. I'd have to think about it. But anyway, the first table that I changed was family. Cloned or vat grown is now an option. 1% chance if you roll a 1 on a D100. Institutionalized temple orphanage creche is one that I added. Everything else basically is the same. Extended family, grandparents, adoptive family, single father, single mother, mother, father. The childhood home one I did change to reflect the setting. On the streets or in the wilderness, a rundown shack or a converted cargo bay. So all of Khan's children in Wrath of Khan, they would have that one. No permanent residence is the same. Encampment or wreckage in wilderness or repurposed brig, which I featured as part of a situation that they had to deal with. An apartment in a rundown neighborhood or a barracks aboard a ship. Small house or officer's quarters aboard ship. Large house or repurposed barrack or a stateroom aboard a ship. A mansion or several sections of a ship. Palace or several sections across multiple decks. Because starships are a thing on Araku. Crashed. Wrecked. And the economic background, I didn't really change that one, but I needed it. I wanted it on here for the childhood home. And also for the origin system, I'm going to do something with that. So I altered the tragedy. I added betrayal for the life events. I altered adventure. I altered supernatural experience. I added a travels option. You went on a trip, basically. I altered the punishment and crime tables. I added technological happenings. And I altered weird stuff. So for crime, I now have property crime, cultural taboo, destruction of property, harm to individuals, procedural crimes, financial crimes, speech, and political. Which I parenthetically gave an example of association or patronage. So you were on the wrong side of a coup, basically, is how that usually happens, how people end up as political prisoners. Because I don't think the chart in Xanathar's is. I don't know, too narrow. It's like some things can be combined. Like that's why, like theft, burglary, those are basically property crimes. Those are, you can combine them, and that's why I did that, to expand. So it's still a D8 you roll on this one, but I think it's a wider berth of things that you can get in trouble for. I also have critical damage tables that my players are using now. So the first one on the adventures is you nearly died. You roll to determine the damage type, and then you roll on that critical damage table to see what happened to you. And it can result in permanent injury. So they were pretty stoked that that was an option on the table. I added you suffer from PTSD. That you have to make a wisdom save to get a long rest. And if you encounter what gave your trigger, which I have you roll on the supernatural event table, you have to repeat a save. You have to do a save or be frightened. And you can repeat the save every turn. Let's see. I think I added it. I don't know if I added this or copied it. I might have copied it. I had an amazing time, fell in love with adventuring. You have an extra point of inspiration. And then I added the option, a common magic item or firearm, because firearms are on Araku. The travels table. Successful pilgrimage. You travel to a holy site. Members of the clergy's attitude improves one step when they learn of this. Unsuccessful pilgrimage. You or your companions had to turn back because you fell victim to a crime, and you roll on the crime table to see what kind of crime that was that you were a victim of. A trade mission. You were part of a trade mission. Roll a d4 to determine the outcome. You lost money. You broke even. The trip was profitable, and the trip was exceptionally profitable. The last two, you get some extra gold. Military campaign. You marched out, you camped, you came home. It was largely a waste of time, but there were some good times to be had. Roll on ward if you saw action. So if you actually want your character, like if you get this and you want them to actually have seen action, it's your choice. You can roll on the ward to see what happened. Otherwise, you just marched and came back. Like the Grand Old Duke of York and his 10,000 men. Hunting trips. Searching for game is the only traveling you've done, but sometimes it took you far afield. You get an extra 1d4 days of rations and your starting equipment. Diplomatic mission. You were part of a mission that to foreign lands. Learn an additional language, which is exceptionally powerful on Araku. Isn't it?
Yeah. Given that I have like what, 2 or 3 instances of having to do a little bit of like a game of telephone between characters.
Yes, not everyone in her party does not have a unified language yet, so there's translating that needs to be done between party members. It's a lot of fun.
Also doesn't help when one of the people is a chaos gremlin. It's utterly terrifying.
Yep, negotiated them a deal for a paid job and didn't bother to tell anyone. They were standing right there. They're just like, Oh yeah, we'll do that. You're gonna pay? Okay. Waited till they got back to the room and said, "Oh, by the way, we're doing this tomorrow. I signed us up for a 10-day journey." Yeah, Syndraku. I think it adds a level of realism, and I have a lot of languages that are spoken on Araku to reflect that. So yeah, and it is a lot of fun because then you can actually, the players can chance having a private conversation in front of people because they pick a language that they don't think that person speaks, and so they can talk in front of people and not actually have anyone overhearing them or maybe not understanding them. So
it's also fun for the chaos of it.
Yeah.
Funny moments.
Nomad, you were totally nomadic. Gained the ability to know where north is as long as you were outdoors. So it's part of the Keen Mind feature. Self-discovery, you went on a walkabout to discover something about yourself. And I don't know what you mean, Rose, this week. Oh, yeah, I think we are going over. Yeah. Yes. Doing the character build at the start and just getting into this now. Yeah, probably. Sorry if you have somewhere to be. Discovery, you went looking for something and found it. Well, for a magic item, or the GM can choose one. And then bushwhacking. You wandered the wilderness trying to find your fortune, but came back empty-handed. So those are all the travel options. Betrayal, so this is another one that I did. Humiliation, and this is you or your target. Most of these apply to both, or either. Because I didn't want this one to be, it happened strictly to you. I wanted it to be open, that either you could be the one who was betrayed, or you could be the one who betrayed. And Rosa, I'm glad that you're happy. So humiliation. You or your target were humiliated in front of many people. When meeting someone, roll 1d20. On a 1 or 20, they know about it. Theft, you may never see them again, but what was stolen is certainly gone forever. Con, you begin with no money, or an extra 3d6 if you were the betrayer. Lover, infidelity ruined your romantic life. Perhaps you can rebuild. Imagined, the precise nature of the wrong is difficult to parse, but the damage has been real enough.
I'm angry at you. I don't know why, but I'm angry at you.
Exactly. Exactly. Rumors, whether started, spread, or been the victim of, your reputation has been tarnished by your association with a rumor. Murder, someone you were close to was murdered by somebody they believed was their friend or ally. Extortion, you were involved in an extortion scheme, victim or perpetrator. And then there's a d6, whether they're still paying and it's still a secret, whether it was exposed or whether they paid and it's still exposed, and so. Yeah. Technological matters, another of my new tables. You witnessed a starship fire its weapons. You found an ammo can it had 10d10 rounds. Roll 1d6 to determine the size and type. D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, or shotgun, buckshot. You drank water from a starship's dispensary. You saw a lasgun fire. Perhaps you were wounded. You got to fire a black powder firearm. You worked in a dust mechanicus workshop. Plus 2d4 corruption points. You have a dust pack. It has 1d8 good pellets left. You've ridden in a grav car. You have traveled aboard an airship. Yeah, Rose, this is my new background stuff. New background tables for Xanathar, for Araku. Supernatural events. This is one that I altered, so I will try to pick out the ones that I'm sure I didn't keep from the Xanathar table. The first one: you witnessed a mark of corruption manifest or get used. That's specific to Araku. You were in the presence of an ancient sandworm consuming a dust mining operation. You believe you were spared for a reason. You were fooled by a dust imp and narrowly escaped with your life. You briefly visited the warp. You found a haunted starfighter or other support craft. You have seen a ghost airship. You were saved from a spellcaster by warp cacti. Yeah, and everything else is from Xanathar's. So those are the ones that I added to the supernatural events table. And they were all joking on Sunday when we were playing that they're like, did our campaign inspire these? And they were like, this is almost like a checklist of things to do.
Oh, so it was bingo.
yeah, bingo, yeah.
Apparently,
Araku bingo.
apparently bingo people are scary.
Um,
Also, with all of my recent characters, I'm starting to notice a theme of low wisdom.
Yeah, warp cacti are they're a cactus that absorbs spellcasting. So if you are a caster within the vicinity of them, you have to make a save to get your spell off. If your target is in the vicinity of them, they get a bonus on their saving throw. And if they succeed, basically the warp cactus takes the spell. Weird stuff. This is another altered table from Xanathar's. I'll go through the ones that I added or changed that I'm for sure that I did. You were turned into a duamib for 1d4 weeks, which is a little... If you saw Dune, it's based on the on Muad'Dib, the little mouse. So, yeah. You lived in a thrycreen hive for 1d4 years. You lived in fear of being eaten. You know thrycreen or desert cant.
Princess Bride jokes.
Yes, that was the response from one of the players. Good night. It's good work. I'll most likely eat you in the morning. A dragon held you prisoner for 1d6 years. You did your best to keep them happy. You were taken and kept as a slave for 1d12 years until you escaped, and then there's a roll to see who kept you as a slave. Because a lot of people do it. You served a powerful... Oh wait, that's off the chart already. That's off the chart. That's off the chart. That's off the chart. You met an Eldar, Astartes, Archdevil, Archfey, a Demon Lord, and lived to tell the tale. One of those things. What?
Can't remember who said it, but basically, if all of those happened at the same time,
Yeah.
the only reason why I lived was because they were all too busy fighting each other.
Yes, because I don't actually have an or in that sentence. It's just a list of things. That was them poking fun at my grammar.
Hey, when you're writing like the rough drafts of ideas, you forget a few small words.
This is true.
Sometimes, like not. Like I did earlier.
Yeah. You spent 2d4 lunas in the desert, living off dust. Increased your corruption points by the same amount. And then the last one is also off the list, about wish granting. Punishment. This one I changed somewhat extensive. Quite a bit. You did not commit the crime and were exonerated after being accused. You committed the crime or aided in the commission of it, but the authorities found you not guilty. You have avoided trial and are wanted by authorities where you committed the crime. You were caught and convicted. You spent time in jail or enslaved. You were sentenced to 3d4 years. Roll 1d6. You served all of your sentence. Your sentence was commuted for good behavior or bribery. You served 2 plus 1d4 years before escaping. Make a skill check, DC 20. If you succeed, no one is looking for you. If you fail, you are wanted. And you get to choose whatever skill that is, whether sleight of hand or what have you. You took on a dangerous mission to get out early. Roll on the adventure table to find out what happened. You got in good with the gang or the guards and actually came out richer than when you went in. And you get the gold for that. And then someone bought your freedom. You still owe them 1d6 times 100 gold. Despite being innocent, you were convicted and sentenced to 3d4 years. Or enslavement. Roll 1d6. You served your time plotting revenge. Your innocence was discovered and you were released. You served 2 plus 1d4 years before escaping. Make a skill check, DC 20. If you succeed, no one's looking for you. If you fail, you're wanted. Despite evidence that you were innocent, powers conspired to keep you in prison. You learned to be the criminal people thought you were, and the contacts you made inside helped you gain enough money to buy your freedom with a little left over, plus extra gold. You were banished under penalty of death, should you return. You were sentenced to life in the army. Roll 1d2 times on the warfare table. Make a DC 15 skill check to see if anyone knows you're still alive. On a fail, you're wanted, dead or alive. You were sentenced to death. Roll 1d4. You escaped but are still marked for death. You were recruited to do the dirty deeds. Roll 1d2 times on the adventure table. You faked your death and escaped. You died, but were brought back.
You don't need much.
And then I redid the tragedies. I didn't think they were extensive enough. They weren't varied enough for my taste. And
We like a sad story.
well, it's not just that. It was like 2 of them had to do with dying or someone dying that you're close to. A couple of them were and I don't like the table. So I was like, at the top of my page, I wrote down all the different kinds of tragedies that you can have in broad categories, and then I made this list from those. So I think this one is almost completely changed. There might be 2 that are the same, and I think it's the first 2. A family member, or no, it's the second one. So the first one that I have, a family member was injured and you have been responsible for their care or income. Roll on economic background for their accustomed lifestyle. Not the one you've been keeping them in. The one that they want to be in. And I did it that way so that it's a point of potential conflict.
The grumpy grandpa.
Yeah. A family member or close friend died. Roll on the death chart. That's off the Xanathar table. A series of investment went badly. You lost everything. You almost lost everything. You earned the ire of your patron deity. Most things in their purview go badly for you. Have you lost your faith, or do you seek absolution? A relationship ended bitterly, and the other person is hostile toward you. It may have been a misunderstanding or something one of you did. Your mentor, guildmaster, or employer turned against you. Worse, they have actively undermined your professional efforts ever since. Roll 1d4. The reason is unknown to you. Roll on the betrayal chart. Your performance was lackluster. You parted over legitimate, unreconcilable differences. Your pet died. Roll 1d10 for cause. Unknown, murdered, died protecting you, accident related to your activities, accident unrelated to your activities, natural causes, torn apart by animal or natural disaster, consumed by a monster, or bizarre event. Basically, I took the John Wick background, yes. Yes, exactly. Then I took the death chart and truncated it for that one specifically because the other one has some stuff that's very human specific that doesn't make sense for an animal. You suffered a grievous injury. You recovered, but sometimes it still pains you. Pain or discomfort, nightmares, phobia, that kind of thing. Your home and or workshop was destroyed. Roll 1d6 to determine how. Natural disaster, monster attack, a supernatural event occurred within the walls, warfare, civil unrest, and then targeted arson or other demolition form. And it was somebody you knew. Your sins were made public and you have been shunned ever since by all who know about what you did. Your work caused harm to someone, and while you avoided criminal penalties, you have had to move on. to other towns, cities, or career. Roll 1d4. They are still after you for compensation. They dog your footsteps, never letting you get away. You have been forgiven. You did nothing wrong. It's all lies. So I tried to impart a little more story into what I did, and the changes that I made. Alex, one of my players, he really liked it. At least he seemed to. You were out here, I was in the kitchen cooking.
Yeah, he was reading through it. He kept commenting on it.
So yeah. So we did a character build.
I don't think I ever said their name.
You did not.
Character's name is Kauki.
K-A-I?
U-K-I?
U-K-I? Okay.
Trying to remember how I spell it, because revisiting this character after a long time in my head.
Right on. When I type it up, I'll put it on the Discord. Yeah, for sure.
Probably do that for you, or put it into a document for you.
Okay. You heard it. She volunteered to do it. Yeah, and part of me wants to. I may append it to the Origins system. I don't know. Just because some of it is involved. Oh. She wants to know what character you're playing. She's actually in 2 campaigns. On Sunday, that's the one that Scott's in. Yes. So we talk about that one on the show quite a bit. So why don't you talk about your character in that one?
In that one, I'm playing a white dragonborn named Frost, and they're mostly a fighter, but they have 2 levels of rogue now. And they're fun. I plan to make them a sniper. They don't talk a whole lot though, but they're in my head they're rather serious. So that's mostly why. And they don't know anybody yet.
Does she have 2 levels of rogue?
Yeah. She's only a level 4 fighter. And then 2 levels of rogue.
Okay. I forget stuff about your guys' characters all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't help that we're playing in the same world with characters from a 4 character group that I made that we're playing in the same world, and then on Monday we're playing in the same world with 2 of the characters from that same party.
Yeah. Yeah. And on Monday, your 2 characters. Both are human, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. One's a sorcerer and one's a wizard.
Yeah.
A shadow sorcerer and divination wizard.
And I forget about the I forget about the Torten days. There's a reason why memory is not my thing.
Well, it had been a long time since you had played the character, so playing 2 is complicated, especially casters.
Yeah.
It's
fun when one's the smart one trying to figure out how to plan things and the other one's a chaos gremlin. That's what I'm going to refer to Vanta as at this point.
Well, Rose, you were here when I was talking about my plans for the campaign. They did the specters coming into their little hall.
Larry.
Yeah, I improv'd because I wanted to do something with a shadow. So
I like shadows a lot, don't you?
They're creepy. Like, they freak people out. Well, especially the way that I use them, they freak people out.
Well, yeah.
So I wanted to use a shadow. Spur of the moment, I was like, okay, one of them, a shadow is going to slip into somebody's shadow and basically be following them. And Tim, Snoopy, here on Twitch, he noticed this shadow slip into Scott's character's shadow. And he doesn't know what to do about it. And it follows them into the mess hall, where they see a bunch of people that are alive, where everyone that they've seen thus far is undead. And half the room is in chains, half the room is free. And there's a pilot that they are able to notice. And yeah, the shadow became a sort of gag for that scene, because it started like fondling the dragon. It started fondling Tim's character and freaking him out, and he made a scene, and it was hilarious.
He did a half table flip after pouring beer on it. And Scott's character.
Yeah.
Improv moments can be some of the best moments because they're completely natural.
Yeah. And a kobold came over to ask Tim's character if he could have some of his flesh, if he could buy some of his flesh. And that was the NPC that told them the shadow's name was Larry. Yeah, they eventually did kill Larry. Scott did it in one hit.
That's enough of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't... So, shadows are a low CR monster. They're one that you can meet at low level. They're scary.
You told me about a time where you ended up getting people to not enter a room because of how you described the shadows in there.
No, it was these guys. It was Sunday nights, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, two reasons they wouldn't go on that whole deck. And they wanted to clear the whole ship, but they were like, we are not going on that deck. It was because it was sized for gnomes, so the ceilings were not very high. The only light on that deck was violet fungus, which is a secondary food source for elven ships. And they could see shadows moving across the violet fungus. And they had a couple times where like shadows reached out for them. Or they knew like if you go in there they're gonna get you. So they just every time they just ran right past it every time. And they actually left quite a bit of loot on that deck. Like some of the really good stuff actually was on that deck.
It's great. You must conquer your fear for the rewards.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If you want to use small creatures in your games, they have to be in dwellings, tunnels that are their size, and that medium creatures are going to have disadvantage in.
I mean, it makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Why would they have something that's your size?
Exactly. Unless they move in and squat. But, yeah.
Or unless they want, big ceilings.
Yeah. Like
humans do. Their ceilings like 4 times our height. We have no need for that.
It's True.
People are strange. But tall buildings are also very impressive.
So yeah, it was a good session, I think. And Mondays went well too. So, but I think that's all for tonight. I'm contemplating either developing a regular off Tuesday thing. I don't know what that's gonna be. I don't know what's sustainable on a weekly or a monthly basis like that. That I haven't already sort of done, like subclass builds. Although maybe I could do monster designs and go over monsters or magic items. I don't know. I don't know if that's of interest to anybody. But that'd be that's a lot of typing if I'm gonna do it like on a screen for you guys to go over with me. I have to think about that. Maybe I'll commission you for art to at least have a picture of the monster.
I've been wanting to get into horror things. What?
I don't know what to think or how to respond that I say I'm going to commission you for art for some of my monsters and I want to do horror. Anyway, wish you guys a good night. We will be back next Tuesday discussing Critical Role, episode 6. And I think we are going to perhaps eat birthday cheesecake for her. At any rate, we will see you guys next week.